Next kick we're going to get into is the off-the-wall Showtime kick. I did it against Ben Henderson in the title fight. It probably won me my WEC title. Has a million hits on YouTube. It's a very famous move, but I'm actually going to break it down and show you how it's done and how it's set up. Alright guys, breaking down the Showtime kick. A couple of very important parts to remember. One is setting the kick up. I set the kick up with high kicks. I want to make sure my opponent doesn't really think I'm going to be going off the wall. I'm throwing the high kicks. He's blocking very well. And also I want to make sure he's circling towards the cage. I can't do it if he's too far away from the cage. He's circling close to the cage. I throw the high kick, he blocks. Now I got to rush him a little bit to get him moving backwards so I can use the cage to spring off. Now the steps of it, when I use the cage, I'm stepping off with the same foot. And I want to spring up but still outwards. I don't want to go too straight high or too far out because then the kick's not going to be effective. I want to go, knowing where he's at, I got to go up and towards him with the same leg. So I set him up one high kick, he blocks. Now I'm using that same leg to go off the cage, knowing where to go, right off the cage. So it takes a lot of practice to kind of understand where it's going and know the range of where your opponent's moving. I practice this kick a lot with my coach, Duke Rufus, holding the pads. We're practicing on moving an object, practicing on the object staying still. For this purpose, make sure you guys just have a decent height where you feel you're comfortable going and build up from there. Don't have to be this high. Your opponent's not going to be this high. Head height's about normal size where I want to go. So again, I set it up with the high kick. They block off the cage. Showtime kick. All right, guys. Now, when you're doing this in sparring and you're ready to try it on your opponent, you got to remember that the object's going to be moving. It's not going to be staying still. It's going to be constantly getting farther away. So when you're kicking off that wall, you got to remember that wherever he's at now most likely isn't going to be where you're kicking at. So you kind of got to set that path of where he's going. Like when a quarterback throws the ball to the receiver, same thing going on this. I got to know where his head's going, and I got to use that momentum off the wall to connect to his head. So I set him up with the high kick. Boom. Now he's right here, so I know where he's going. I got to spring off. I'm making sure I cover enough ground to connect to his head. If I miss, I'm in a bad position. If I spring off wrong and I go too far, I can get taken down. So some of the mistakes that can be made is pushing off too far or not pushing off enough. So again, we set him up with the high kicks or whatever you want to set him up with. As long as I can keep him circling around the cage, that's my cue to go for the Showtime kick. So again, the high kick, I see him moving around the cage. And I'm really tricking my opponent by putting my motion to the cage because they don't really expect you to come at them. And then I spring off and go towards their head.